Hi, everybody, and welcome to our Monday extravaganza. So I hope this one finds you well. We're putting this one out across the different streams. I think we are on Facebook, we're on YouTube. I can see X, Getter, Rumble. So anyway, wherever you are, I hope you'll enjoy the next 60 minutes or so as we chat about some of the big political events of well, not just today, but the last several days. And actually, as we're chatting today on a Monday evening, I don't know what it's like with you, but it's glorious where I am here. Really nice. I've been out gardening most of the day, so I'm covered in scratches and whatnot. But nonetheless, it's always very satisfying to do that. And blue skies, my friends, blue skies as we end the day. So no chemtrails to be located anywhere. Where have all the chemtrails gone? I'm sure they'll turn them back on again. But anyway, so it's a lovely spell of weather we're having, which kind of almost reminds me of. Do you remember the weather back during COVID when Boris Johnson locked us down and took away our freedoms and all of that? Do you remember that? And the weather was so nice, and I think that was April of 2020. So sometimes the weather just is quite nice this time of the year before we get in anywhere, within touching distance of the summer. But I'll tell you where the weather didn't seem that brilliant, and that was London. So I want to talk about several things. I want to talk about the local council elections from last week, the Runcorn parliamentary by-election, and some of the fallout from that. So I want to chat about that. But the first thing I just wanted to mention was so this week leading up to Thursday is the kind of VE 80 celebrations. So Victory in Europe, 80 years since the war came to an end, and I think that culminates on Thursday. But it's kind of like a 4-day, I don't know what celebration of the fact that we won, celebration of the fact that our liberties were secured by that generation. Maybe and maybe that's a very useful thing. I watched some of it between gardening. The most impressive bit, several impressive bits about the VE celebrations. Number one, the interviews with the people from, for example, Bletchley Park, where they cracked the Enigma code. And some of these people are like, they're over 100, and yet if you listen to them, and they're being interviewed live, so it's not pre-record. They very, very sharp, lucid, given their great age. I mean, most of those people now are. There's a chap, and he was 98. Another lady was 101. Another chap was 104. And there was I thought it was quite inspiring to listen to those people, to be honest. I got a lot of satisfaction from remembering when we had a generation of people who were prepared to fight for their country. I found that quite inspiring, and I contrast that with where we are in 2025. But their stories it's amazing. The things that they did, the heroism of these people, incredible. What a debt we owe to them, and we should never ever forget that. So that was a good bit. Another good bit was, I don't know, there was a fly past down the mall over Buckingham Palace. I don't know if you saw that, but it was quite good. The different aircraft, the vintage ones from World War II being escorted by modern aircraft. That was all pretty nice. And of course, the Red Arrows kind of brought it to the climax. And I don't know, I mean, I've seen the Red Arrows loads of times at different air shows I've been to. And they're always really good. Whoever thought of the idea of having the red, white, and blue whatever mix they have in the engines, the smoke that goes out the back. Anyway, it's very impressive, very impressive. I remember being in Paris on Bastille Day when they have their version, of the Red Arrows. La Rouge Arrow, or whatever they call themselves. It was pretty impressive as well. They flew down the Champs Elysees, I remember, and over the Tuileries and the Louvre. So these things, it's theater, but it is quite impressive. And there's another impressive image of the cenotaph looking, very, yeah, look how good that looks, folks. I mean, we talk about the best of British, and those people were. I guess that's my point. But there is a point. Take a very close look at that image. This is, of course, the War Memorial. Look what is around the base of it. Those are security barriers. Why the hell do we need security barriers around our National War Memorial? Why do we need that? What did they think was going to happen to our national memorial? So I found the image is gorgeous, obviously, really, really good. But I found the security barriers, I don't know about you, I find that very offsetting, very, very odd. But then again, it's in London, so I mean, I suppose anything could happen. But it was good. It was good. The only bit that I didn't like at all, and if you followed me on X today, you'll see I've stuck it out there. So we celebrate the fact that all those years ago, 80 years ago, our forefathers fought and defeated Hitler, the Nazis, in World War II. And of course, I know there's VJ Day. I mean, I know the war hasn't completely ended 80 years ago today, but in Europe, in the European theater, it had ended. So we fought and we defeated the Nazis. So who then? Yeah, I see in the background. I'm going to bring a short video clip of, if we have it, of Ukrainians. They cannot let this Ukraine thing be. They're absolutely disgraceful. There is no way these look in the Second World War, we fought against the Nazis along with their allies. Ukraine fought with the Nazis. Let that sink in. Ukraine fought with the Nazis against the Russians. They had SS divisions in Ukraine, basically north and south. So is it just me, or I mean, maybe I'm out on this one. Sometimes I am, but we're celebrating the defeat of the Nazis by inviting those from a nation who fought with the Nazis to come to London and parade and be afforded. All the things that come with that. I mean, why not just be all out and invite the bloody Germans? Should we invite the Germans, do you think? What about that? I'm sure, is there any remaining Nazis that we can maybe invite along and they could parade alongside their compatriots in Ukraine? And some people say, oh, yeah, but look, that was a long time ago. Ukraine's changed a lot. Well, has it? Because if you choose to go back as far in history as 2014, right the way through to 2024, the Azov battalions in Ukraine track their heritage right back to when they were aligned with the Nazis. I'm sorry if it annoys people, but this is historical fact. You've all seen the videos and images, as have I, of Ukrainian soldiers with swastikas on them. That's because it is part of what Ukraine was. Now, Ukraine was in a difficult enough position during World War II. I'm not saying it wasn't, but I am saying to you that I thought it was obscene on VE Day to invite those from a Nazi-aligned ally, which Ukraine was, into the heart of our celebrations. It really is. And of course, it's all part of the game. It's all part of the theater around Ukraine. We're never, ever, ever allowed to forget the fact that Ukraine is heroic and noble and fighting big bad Putin and all of that stuff. And I saw several interviews today. I saw one with a couple of Ukrainian soldiers. There's one here. Yeah, this is a Ukrainian lady, I think, although who can say nowadays, being interviewed. Listen, listen.
Very much for joining us on GB News. Now, just tell us a little bit about why you're here today and what we can expect from the Ukrainian armed forces here outside Wellington Barracks.
So today we had a chance to take part in the historical moment, to participate in the parade in London for 80th anniversary of VA Day.
And what does it mean to you to be here today? We were just chatting off camera. You've been in London for 6 months, is that right? So what does it mean to be here today celebrating this moment in history?
It's an honor for me and for us, for my colleagues too, to take part in this moment, to take part in this parade, because it's very valuable event today.
Yeah. And so you'll be part of the later part of around 1,300 in total. Is that?
Yeah, you can tell it's scripted for sure, Jan. So, I mean, it's absolutely pathetic that there. And there was a couple of other instances as well. There's a couple of Ukrainian soldiers who said they were looking forward to the victory over their enemy at the moment. So, Iber says, well, imagine what the MSN would say if the Ukrainian soldiers did a Nazi salute. They'd probably say that it wasn't really a Nazi salute. And at the end of the day, Dr. Hackenbush is right. What's she doing in London for 6 months if they're fighting a war? Well, indeed, it's a very, very good point. This is a strange war. Well, we're not get into the current shenanigans between Ukraine and Russia. But all I would say is, whoever thought it was a good idea to, although mind you, just on that actually, the prospect of getting peace is very difficult when we have, for example, this is the peace-loving Zelensky. Ukraine launches a new Kursk offensive, breaking through a minefield on Russian border days before Putin's planned ceasefire. Do you see why that's written? It's written as if, how dare Putin have a ceasefire? How dare he do that? Ukraine will not tolerate it. Well, number one, they broke through a minefield. Well, good luck with that. I hope that worked out okay for them. And secondly, I'm not sure I believe it. I don't think I believe anything. And thirdly, as I said here, hi Joe 99. The Ukraine and the EU seem determined to keep the killing going at all costs. I honestly think the job that Donald Trump has to try and bring a peace is very difficult. It's made really difficult by the Europeans and the Kiev regime, which doesn't really seem to want peace. As Didi says, hi Didi, Northern Ireland says, strange you can go on holiday to Ukraine at the moment, but people can't go home. I'm confused. That's a really good point, actually. I mean, why aren't all the Ukrainians in the UK over in Ukraine? I mean, going back to World War II, if we had have cleared off and left the UK empty, well, wouldn't have worked out well. And then I see, Michelle says, is the Ukrainian inclusion there just to rub Putin's nose in it? Probably is. I mean, that was obviously sanctioned by the British government. That will all have been planned. British Army probably also. So this is, I find it quite sickening anyway. Put it like this. It jarred with me because some of the other things, I saw the royal family in the balcony. I saw the flyover. Interviews with the veterans from World War II, and let's face it, there's fewer and fewer of them each year that goes by. I find all that kind of stuff quite moving and quite touching. And then bloody Ukraine, it just leave it, So anyhow, that all being said, we shall obviously this whole VE celebrations come to a big climax on Thursday, and I believe there's a service at St. Paul's in London that the royal family will attend and whatnot. So I just hope the Ukrainians aren't there, but maybe next year the Nazis descendants will be invited to come along for inclusivity reasons. Obviously, we must be really inclusive. Right. That's enough about VE Day today, anyway. And instead, let's turn our attention to the big event from last week. So, since we met last, since we were gathered here last Monday, we've had local council elections, mayoral elections, and we've also had a parliamentary by-election. And these have proven to be really, really interesting. And I don't know about you, but I sat up and watched some of the sort of the results as they came in, and then obviously the main stuff came in on Friday of last week. So we then saw the full scale of everything, and boy oh boy, did Labour and the Conservatives get their asses kicked. Now, I think we're going to try and bring you up the final results of the local council elections, which weren't good for Kemi and Arcare. They certainly weren't good, but they were good news for reform. And there's lots of points to be made. But before we get to talking about reform, I really would want to talk about Labour, and I want to talk about the Conservatives as well. One of the most absolutely annoying articles I read in the past couple of days, Boris Johnson, Bojo, had an article in the Daily Mail telling us that don't worry about the defeats that because they suffered a catastrophic defeat in the local council elections, right? Don't worry about that. We can still win in 2029. And he produced all these cliched, clapped out arguments why Kemi was the great savior of the party and why Kemi would lead them to victory. And it's just insane stuff, you know. But that's the reality on the screen. That's actually what happened in those 23 councils. And you can see stellar performance from Reform. The Lib Dems did okay. Their vote went up by 2%. So let's not get too excited. But the main point is the Conservative vote collapsed, as what I was just saying. So they lost 676 seats, which I think, by the way, the 676 seats was at the high end of their worst expectations. As in, God, it's really bad. I mean, they lost so many councillors. But Labour, look at Labour. They lost 186 councillors. I mean, that's a significant loss as well. You can see the independents have gone down as well. The Greens went up a wee bit, but again, I think the Green overall vote went back. So despite all the hype the BBC gives the Green Party and the Lib Dems, the notion that these parties are doing really well, sorry, it doesn't work like that. But back to these numbers we got on the screen. So let's just keep them there. The thing is that the Conservatives, last summer they collapsed under Rishi. Remember Rishi? They collapsed then and they lost hundreds of MPs. And now they've lost hundreds more of councillors. And I have no doubt that there were quite a few English councils that should have been going to the polls. But between the government and the Conservatives, they were cancelled. I think if those elections, had have gone ahead, I would suggest to you that Reform may well have got like 1,000 seats or something, or maybe more, because the Conservative vote is just gone. So my feeling on it is that the Conservatives are like Monty Python's Norwegian Blue Parrot. They have ceased to be. They are an ex-political power. Oh yeah, the brand name still is out there, and yes, they do have some representation. Like even in this chart, they have the third biggest number of votes. But the thing is, they're in third place in 23 formerly Conservative councils. That's the important point. And Boris Johnson completely ignores all of this. And he looks at these numbers and he thinks, yes, but don't worry about it. Labour are in trouble. Well, we're going to talk about Labour in a second. Yeah, Labour are in trouble. But you're even quicker. You know what I mean? Like they're going down even. Their ship's scuttling to the bottom of the ocean even faster than the Labour ship. And Boris is pointing over at the Labour ship. as the Tory vessel sinks like a stone. So that was, I mean, those, so the Conservatives, absolute disaster, and I don't know what you guys think. I do not believe there's a way back for them. I genuinely don't. Labour, I want to talk about Labour then. So as you can see, they also lost, 186 councillors. And this is bearing in mind that they won the general election last July. So within 10 months, they're losing a vast number of councillors. How can that be if they're popular? Explain that one to me. And the answer is, of course, because they've been a disaster since they got into power. That's why. Starmer his hold. Yeah, Jed is here. Comments. Don't worry, I'm coming to Reform in a minute. Labour have just massively unpopular. Ibra Steller says the Conservative Party are done. They are cooked. The Conservatives are cooked. Kemi can have all the plans that she wants. Nobody has any confidence in them anymore. But nobody has any confidence in Labour either. That's the point. So when you have the two main political parties, Conservative and Labour, desperately unpopular across the country for different reasons, but they're desperately unpopular. And this is the Uni Party, remember, the Conservative and Labour Party. When the Uni Party is this unpopular, and then along comes the Reform Party. Now I want to talk about Reform. So Reform obviously put up a lot of candidates, and they got a terrific result. As I say, 677 of the councillors. By the way, they also won the Lincoln and they won two of the mayoral competitions as well, which was a triumph. And they also got the Runcorn and Helsby parliamentary. They won that as well. We'll talk a wee bit about that in a second. But look, at council level, Reform are very much in pole position. And I think that's a testament to the fact that people are really, really fed up with the Conservative and Labour Party. And I'm delighted about that. I'm absolutely delighted that seething contempt. Don't worry, Dee, we're going to get to Mr. Nigel as well. I haven't forgotten about him. The people are fed up with the Conservatives and Labour, and they are going into the Reform. They're voting for Reform. And as I said, I was pleased. Very pleased that the result was good. No, Jed says, if you vote differently, you get a different result. This is proof. Indeed. And the logic in that might be that if people vote differently to this again in 2029, they might get a different result as well, mightn't they? You got to watch that logic, because I think Reform have basically captured not a protest vote. People are sick. They've given up on the Conservatives predominantly in these council seats, but they want to have a Conservative light, if you know what I mean, alternative, which Reform definitely provided, and so that's why they flocked to Reform, and it's been interesting because, like, there's not much that I would disagree with. That Daniel says, imagine what a good country this could be if we had someone like Trump to vote for. Well, you see, Nigel Farage ain't no Trump. That's something, Daniel, to be clear about, as he demonstrated today when he used the occasion of VE Day to publicly slag off Ben Habib and Rupert Lowe. Not a good move, Nigel. That's not gone unnoticed. There's no need to do that. You could just zip it and just enjoy the success without having to do down others. That's not what we do in Britain. There's a certain thing called grace. Now, Northern Monkey says Runcorn does not want a street fighter to represent them. Well, Runcorn's now got the lady whose name I can't remember as their MP. I was pleased that there was 6 votes in the Runcorn by-election, which Labour lost to Reform. There were 6 votes. In actual fact, you may have seen there was a recount, and on the first sort of poll, there were 4 votes ahead. Labour insisted that to a recount. It went up to 6, and they lost the seat. Good, excellent. And of course, all the apologies were straight out. Oh, there were. I understand that point, Iber. I understand that point. Uh, the thing is that the Labour excuse was, well, it was difficult for us because our previous MP punched a constituent several times on camera. Well, yeah, if you go around, I mean, top tip for politicians, no matter how tempted you might be, try not to punch your constituents. It's just a feeling I've got. Maybe that's just me, but I think if you go around punching your constituents, you're probably not going to hold the seat. Having said that, they came close enough. Yeah, Jed, I see your comment. But having a go at Rupert Lowe and Ben Habib on VE Day is very, very bad form from Nigel Farage. Maybe people vote for reform and not Nigel Farage. Has anyone considered that? Maybe reform would do better without Nigel Farage. Has anyone considered that? I don't know. All I'm saying is that the local council results were very good. Now, then there's just been this big pile-on reform today. Did you see this? And this is about a very sensible policy that Reform have said, look, any of the I think they control eight or nine councils, something like that, for the first time. And they're basically saying, and I heard my Andrea Jenkins, a friend Andrea Jenkins, talking about the fact that in Lincoln Council, she's going to try and remove any kind of diversity roles, any of this kind of nonsense, which is excellent. The media instantly had a go at her saying, but there are no such roles. Well, there might be such roles, except they give it a different name. And most certainly North Lincoln Council has got lots of policies about the importance of diversity, inclusivity and whatnot, so and equality. So, yes, I mean, essentially a UK type Doge done through a council. It's a bit more limited than done, obviously, through the government, but nonetheless to be absolutely admired and no problems with that at all. But then today, or maybe it was yesterday, Reform put out a post on social media. I think it was the chairman, Zia Yosef, saying that on any of the Reform-run councils, the only flags that they would fly, I don't know if we've got yeah. So they put out this one: Reform will only fly the Union Jack, St. George's flag, and county flags. We are proud of our country and history. And so now I think that's version 2. I think it's possible there was a prototype version where it said the Union Jack and St. George's flag, and then the county flags bit may or may not have been added. It doesn't matter. It's absolutely clear what Reform are saying. And so you can fly your county flag, you can fly St. George's flag, and you can fly the Union flag. What you can't do is you can't fly the rainbow flag. Oh no. You can't fly Trans Day of Visibility flag. You can't fly BLM flag. You can't do any of that. Sorry, that's not happening in those Reform councils. I totally support that, by the way. But it's been amazing to watch. And so if you've been on X today, and I haven't been on it that much, but it's amazing the coordinated attack. Labour and Lib Dem, and that's not a coincidence. Their MPs coming out and saying, yes, Daniel, no Ukrainian flag. Didi, I'd like to know what Nigel's got against Tommy. Apart from slagging off Nigel Farage, apart from slagging off Ben Habib and Rupert Lowe, he did slag off Tommy Robinson and his followers. I don't know why. I just don't know why this is. Most of those people currently vote Reform. Didi says, I'd love to know what Nigel's got against Tommy. Jed says he knows what he has against Tommy. Well, please type it in, Jed, and I'll read it out. Tommy's too toxic. He's going to alienate the people in their armchairs when they come home from work and sit in front of the TV and vegetate. Tommy Robinson's in prison. He's not in a position to do anything. Tommy Robinson has expressed no desire to even be in reform, right? So I don't know why Nigel Farage has to keep talking about him. I wonder, does he have nightmares about Tommy Robinson? I mean, Tommy Robinson, he's in jail. He should be getting out in July. They might give him another custodial sentence, and I think that means that Tommy, to a large degree, is probably, from an electoral point of view, all but irrelevant. I could be wrong, but I mean, obviously, I want to see Tommy Robinson out. I don't. To the average Joe, he's too toxic to the vast majority of UK voters. Yeah, but then things change when circumstances change. People can change. Plus, I'm not sure why Tommy is toxic. The mainstream media said Tommy Robinson is toxic, but so what? The mainstream media, up until very recently, were saying that Nigel Farage was toxic. Were they right then? So anyway, yeah, he did slag off Tommy Robinson. I forgot that. There's. I mean, I stood in a crowd in Trafalgar Square about a year ago, actually, July of 2024. There was a huge crowd. Trafalgar Square was absolutely, bunged with people, and Tommy Robinson was on the stage. And well, Jed, if we're going to rely on the MSM to determine what we should do, then we're doomed. The MSN were telling people to take better be careful because I'm on YouTube, to take the necessary medical treatments for what back in 2020, 2021. People were quite right to disregard them then. I think they should be quite right to disregard them now when it comes to Tommy Robinson. So I may be missing your point, Jed. It's sometimes a thinking time. But Daniel actually is a very fair point. Farage is more fixated on Tommy Robinson than Tommy is in him. Absolutely. I think that's actually probably the main point. I don't think Tommy's that bothered about Nigel Farage at all. I think Tommy Robinson is much more bothered about getting his freedom and liberty, which I hope most people watching this would agree, he deserves to have already spent this amount of time in confinement, in solitary confinement, because he showed a movie that was against that was in breach of a court ruling. Seems pretty hard to me. Given some of the other sentences we see the judges in this country handing out. But Jed says Farage is fixated on Tommy because the MSN keep asking him about Tommy. Well, yeah, maybe that's the point. But let's see what happens with Tommy Robinson. I just think it's a non-event, to be honest. And I don't know why Nigel. Maybe the media did bring it up, and maybe he felt a desire to respond. Did the media also bring up Ben Habib and Rupert Lowe? I wonder what prompted that sudden. I mean, I am pleased to see that I put it out on my X there a couple of hours ago, my response to Nigel Farage's behaviour, and I'm pleased to see it got quite a nice response. So thank you to everyone who saw that. I mean, everyone's entitled to their points of view, but I just didn't think. I mean, it was. Dee says if they get rid of Farage, they might get more votes. Possible. Look, in politics, everything's possible. Probably apart from Labour ever regaining what they had last July, I don't think that's possible. Did anyone else think it's strange that in the aftermath of the defeats that we'd put up on the screen there a wee bit back, all those Labour losses, the response from the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, was to say, I get it. We're going to go faster. We're going to go further and faster. Further and faster. That was the approved line from Ewan McSweeney, the PR guru in the background who pulls all their little strings. Further and faster. And you're thinking, what? Like, I mean, I tried to get a gif of Wile E. Coyote. In some of those the old Disney cartoons, Wile E. Coyote would be running towards the cliff edge, and he would run so fast, and he'd run actually out over it, right over the cliff edge for a bit, and then he'd plummet. Well, this is essentially what further and faster means when we come to Labour. And it's been interesting, by the way, today to see that one of the first Labour casualties of this government, a lady called Louise Haig. She was the one that was, she had to resign. Slight awkwardness about fraud, but never mind. She's the very person to take advice. Yeah. Honestly, some of this stuff, folks, she just couldn't make it up. She had to quit over a fraud offence, which had been, in fairness to her now, pre her political career. But she, nonetheless, that's why she had to resign. But she actually had good advice for Keir Starmer. She says, "Listen, you mustn't go to the right after the reform success. Don't do that," says our Louise. And also, maybe put taxes up. She said that as well. Rachel Reeves is going to have to put her taxes up. So I don't know if any of you political Svengalis watching this, but do you really think that, is there anyone thinks that putting taxes up, that's going to definitely get the Labour vote back? Really? It's so, these people are so useless. I mean, the lack of talent on, I said this last year, the lack of talent on their benches is unbelievable. Now, there's all these rumors circulating. Did you see them, that there's going to be 2 casualties if Keir does a little mini reshuffle? And the 2 lovelies, well, this is one that definitely needs to go, Lucy Powell. Oh yeah, absolutely. Leader of the House, no less. Very important job. She's the one who had to issue a groveling apology when it was deemed that she was dismissing talk about the grooming gangs. And she was very snidey about it, very sarky about it. And then she had to come around and sort of say, oh, well, look, people may have misunderstood what I was saying. No, Lucy Powell, we understood exactly what you were saying. We know that Labour doesn't want to have conversations about the mass rape of young girls in towns and cities across the United Kingdom. She didn't really apologize yet. Absolutely not. She did not. So she, absolutely vile woman. And if this government had any integrity, but it doesn't, she got rid of him. But the other 2 ones that are up for the chop, apparently, is the Education Minister, Bridget Phillipson, who is awful. I've gone on about her a lot because I find her particularly awful. And also Lisa, who ate all the pies, Nandy. Have you seen Lisa recently? There must be a lot of nice lunches when you're in government. But anyway, our Lisa and Bridget could be for the chop, which would be interesting if that actually happens. It was rumored. It's a rumor mill. But Lucy Powell most definitely should get the chop because, this issue of the rape gangs, I mean, as you know, Labour won't give us a national inquiry. It's outrageous that they won't. And there's a reason for that. There's a reason why Labour don't want to go near this topic. You know it, and I know it. We all know it. And it's because it's going to be very awkward for Labour councillors, Labour mayors, some of the establishment, even the police. It's going to be very, very awkward. Hi, Stephen, by the way. Good to see you on the stream here. So we'll see. We shall see what plays out. But to summarise on the elections that we've seen, I'm delighted that Reform did well. I'm delighted that Labour and Conservatives took an absolute kicking. I think the Melvin says Tommy is not in prison. Well, okay, Melvin, where is he then? I thought he was in prison. Well, where do you think he is? Please enlighten me and tell me where Tommy Robinson is if he's not in prison. Because I keep hearing of friends of mine who go to visit him. So where are they visiting them? Oh, he's in an acting school. Oh, I see. Oh, he's a psyop then. Tommy's a psyop. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, he's on the moon. Yeah, he got there by NASA sent him to the moon. Yeah, or to over the Antarctic wall. Maybe he said maybe he's there as well. Yeah. That's it. Yeah, this was my version of Labour's going for this. It was Wile Coyote I wanted, but that illustrates the same purpose. This is where Labour's going. We remember we talked about this last July. We talked about the whole issue of would Labour be in for 5 years, for 10 years? Because the majority they had was humongous. Now, Jed will be pleased about this. I did see a poll came out the other day saying that based on the local council results and the sheriff vote, if there was an election tomorrow, Reform would win that election. I think they'd get something like about 220 seats. Labour would be about 170 or something like that. And then the Conservatives would be down in, like, I don't know, 30 or 40 seats. Really, really, really low. Yeah, just reading some of Melvin obviously is not a fan of Tommy. Listen, Melvin, my own view is I take everybody as I see them. That's been my modus operandi. From what I see of Tommy Robinson, and I have a direct communication with him, I find him okay. That's all I can say. Everyone else has to answer for themselves. That's just my take on it. Anyway, this isn't about Tommy Robinson. This is about where Britain goes, the United Kingdom goes at the next election. And based on the polls that we've talked about, Reform would win. And I seen actually Zia Youssef saying that they'd get over 400 seats. Not sure about that. I think that's not sure about that at all. And of course, that assumes all things are equal in the next 3 or 4 years. And there's an old expression which I know you all know, and that is that a week is a long time in politics. And so Stephen says he loves Tommy. He's a good friend. Yeah, Stephen, I mean, I find him very amiable, very obliging. And, yeah, that's what I agree with you. So Melvin says Agenda 2030 is playing out now. How do you stop that? How do you stop that? Well, I mean, a very good point, actually. And, we do see all of that. So, look, just to wrap up, I wish Reform well. I'm not sure about Nigel Farage, really not, I have to say. But I do think that the Conservatives are dying. I think they're dead. They just don't know it yet. And I think that Labour are in spectacular trouble. Now, if those, those were 23 Conservative dominated council areas, so you got to be a bit careful that we don't just say, oh, well, that's the way it's going to be everywhere, because it might not be. And if you took it Runcorn, which is probably more representative, it was very close. It was very between Reform and Labour. It was very close. What do you call it? The Conservatives weren't at the game. I think they got 2,000 votes. Truly pathetic. So I think that there's a lot of water to go under the bridge yet. There's no point in people getting too excited one way or the other, but nonetheless, I think we can't ignore the nose and in front of our face, and that's telling me that the Conservatives are cooked, and that Labour's not that far behind them. It's going to be really interesting to watch what happens. By the way, going back to the VE80 celebration today, did any of you see the short clip? I can't remember where. I think I might have put it up somewhere on my subsite. Anyway, Starmer was sitting behind King Charles and Queen Camilla, and he seems to have. It's quite hilarious, really. He kind of leans in to say something to Camilla, and she just stares. She doesn't seem to want to talk to him at all. I thought that was hilarious, and it just shows you that Camilla has obviously some sense that she realizes that who's this monumental bore, this adenoidal monumental bore. So I'm just trying to pick up comments here. Melvin says, David, why do you think no one is ever contacted after a vote to make sure you voted? It's all rigged, every single bit. Well, Melvin, I stood in several elections, and I can tell you that they may be rigged. I'm not saying that you're totally wrong, but we do know sometimes who votes, because there's tallies taken at the polling station. So I think there's reasonable. I'm not saying that's everywhere across the UK. I can only speak in my own experience, as I've said earlier. So yeah, that's basically where we are with the state of the British parties. And I hope that the sooner the Conservatives die off, the better, because they've been there too long. And Boris Johnson can write all the pathetic headlines that he wants in the Daily Mail. It won't, Boris, your ship has sailed. You know, is there anybody in the stream takes Boris Johnson seriously? I mean, I consider him to be a warmonger, obviously. And Jed's getting fed up with the conspiracy theory on anything and everything. Well, as you know, Jed, I don't go with every conspiracy theory myself, but I listen to other people's opinions. People are entitled to have their opinions on my show, but we're not obliged to agree with them, obviously. So, yeah, Boris Johnson, as I say, he's the guy that locked us down. He's the guy that made sure that the war kept going in Ukraine back when there could have been peace. And he is, as Stephen says, he is a valuable puppet. Okay, Melvin, I see all your comments, but I'm not going to deal with every one of. But obviously, I'm familiar with the Fabian Society, Tony Blair, and all of that. Yeah. So I wanted to move then, if I can, just on a little bit. I wanted to talk about things across the pond a little bit, because if there's one guy that triggers the global media, oh boy, it's Donald Trump. And he's pretty brilliant at it. Well, exhibit one. Okay, exhibit one. Now, there may be a double meaning to this one, by the way. So Trump put this image of himself as the Pope, and people said, oh, that's very offensive to Roman Catholics. But I mean, there's a theory that goes that this was Donald Trump basically saying that the axis of power doesn't lie in the Vatican. It lies in Washington. It lies in the White House. So was this an assertion of power, if you follow me, rather than just a tongue and a tongue in your mouth joke? Don't know. But he triggered them over that. And then he's triggered them also. I had to laugh. I was laughing at the British media today saying that he's definitely he's not going to stand in 2028 anyway. Daily Mail was saying, Trump says he won't stand in 2028. He was never going to stand in 2028. Oh my God. How did they? I mean, he trolled them because he said that he might. Trump said that he might stand in 2028. In fact, Vance went one better, and he was putting Trump 2032 on his MAGA cap. Did you see that? That was brilliant post by Vance. None of that. It's all fantasy. It's all fantasy. Donald Trump will be stepping down, and I would like to see my namesake become president in 2028. Trump actually himself, when he said that he wasn't going to stand in 2028, did say that he mentioned two names, Vance and Marco Rubio. That's the two names that he put out. So that's Trump signaling, and I don't know how it will actually play out. But then today he's triggered the world's media again by saying two things. First of all, the one thing he wants to turn Alcatraz prison, the rock just off the San Francisco coast, into a maximum security prison, which it once was. It once was. I mean, the media is outraged at this. It's impossible. It's a tourist attraction. I've been there. I've been to Alcatraz, right? I've been around it. I've been in the, yeah. Trump is so good. So good. Yeah. Well, I've been one. I mean, I'm sure some of you may have seen the movie with Sean Connery, The Rock, I think it's called. Very great. It's really interesting. I mean, you know, there's all the stories about the fact that this is called Alcatraz. I think Alcatraz means pelican in Spanish, and because it was shaped like a pelican, or there's pelicans on it. And they built a prison there, as you know, because it's far enough off the coast that it was deemed probably impossible to swim. If you broke out of your cell, the waters, I can testify, it's very cold water there. So the chances are that you're going to drown. You're never going to get freedom. Yeah, I did escape Alcatraz. Yeah, I did actually. Yeah, put a photograph somewhere of me in Alcatraz in a cell where I belong, or some would love to see me, I suppose. Daniel says we got the Isle of Wight. Yeah, we got Isle of Man. Maybe we should build one there. But I love this suggestion by Trump. And it's obviously they've all wet their pants about this. And how could it even happen? I mean, it's a tourist attraction. Think of the tourists. And Trump saying, no, we're going to put some of our very worst criminals, the real thugs, the real monsters. We're going to stick them in Alcatraz. Now, as is always the case, you can't be sure he means that. He could just be trolling. But that said, it was a good one, because the media have been very, very upset about that. The other thing they're very upset about with Trump is Trump said that he's going to put, is it a 100% tariff on all foreign movies, because he feels that Hollywood is in trouble. Now, I've got to be honest with you here. But thanks, Stephen, for your kind comments, and thanks for being here as well. Hollywood, if Hollywood went, I'd be quite happy about that. Would you not? I mean, I think Hollywood is essentially, as you know, I've said it often enough, I'll be careful because I'm on YouTube, a very, very questionable place. Let's put it like that. And I don't really watch Hollywood movies. I don't watch any Hollywood movies anymore. They don't make Holly weird is probably closer to the mark, as DD says. Holly weird. So if Holly weird went down the tubes, I'd be happy about this. But anyway, Trump's decided he's going to stand for the for Hollywood, and therefore there's going to be a big tariff on movies that are made outside the US. Now that's got implications for us in the UK. Because the UK, even where I live in Northern Ireland, they do have, that was a good one. Better not talk about it though on YouTube, but just a snapshot of Hollywood, my friends, a snapshot of Hollywood. There's other things about Hollywood we could say, but we can't here. Well, we can on my Substack and on my podcast. The UK has got a very lucrative, there's thousands of people who live here in the UK and work in making movies, So the suggestion is that if the movies are made in the UK, some of the big movies are made here in the UK, then like the Star Wars, I think some of them, they're filmed in Cleethorpes, aren't they? I thought. Maybe I got that one wrong. But regardless of where they're filmed, and by the way, I was very pleased to see again that the Grimsby and Cleethorpes did feature in that Lincolnshire mayoral election, and I did see Andrea Jenkins being interviewed outside Grimsby Town Football Club, which was a highlight for me because I've been there several times. Back to Hollywood. So what will this do? Will this make Hollywood sort of or movie producers decide to make their movies in the States? Like there's a logic there. Like there is a logic in what Trump's saying this across the piece. You want to make cars, build them in America. You want to make movies, make them in America. That's called make. Oh, hi, Matt. So commiserations, Matt, by the way, for living so close to Australia, which has proven itself to be every bit as woke as Canada, which has proven itself to be just totally woke and absolutely bonkers. Mark Carney, anybody? I mean, slightly less, a more ugly version of Justin Trudeau, I heard him described. And now down in Australia, they've got this absolute clown, Albanese, who's won a storming election. I mean, this is one of the issues that I have about Donald Trump. As you know, I am very supportive of Donald Trump, but I think maybe it's just the way the global elite operate these things. But, they've parachuted Mark Carney in Canada to be prime minister. They've now got Albanese parachuted in Australia. And these are both globalist leftists. Like they're the same. They're the same. In terms of their political outlook. So, and it seems to be that when Donald Trump talked about, for example, making Canada the 51st state of the United States, all the liberals in Canada went, "Oh my God, quick, vote for Carney, vote for liberals." I don't know. I mean, the Canadian psyche kind of is it's not good. I've got Canadian friends. Some of you watch this, I know, and I feel bad for you. What I would suggest to Canadian friends is get Alberta to secede from Canada and become part of the United States. Alberta is where all the action is anyway. So Alberta should leave Canada and let the Liberals just cry with Carney as they're stripped of the only thing worth really having. I mean, I've traveled pretty extensively through Canada. The thing that gets me is like once you go a certain altitude, like there's nothing there but bears. So Ibersteller says, did Trump do it to aid Carney? I don't know. We talked about this on our live show we did last Thursday night. I can't understand the Trump rationale for goading Canada and Australia with the tariffs and stuff, because all that's done is, I mean, I put this, I wrote this over in my Substack. By the way, I hope you've also subscribed to my Substack. And it was, I mean, it's like the Anglosphere versus Trump. Because if you think about it, Canada, Carney, the UK, Dormer, Australia, Albanese, and in fact, actually, Matt, New Zealand is kind of the odd one out because you haven't got, once you get rid of Jacinda, well, that was good, but he says Jacinda might be coming back on her broomstick. So that's going to be, it seems to be a thing. Is it just the forces of globalism, regrouping to try and take on Trump? I don't know. I don't know. I'll tell you what I do think. It's going to make like things like G7 meetings and stuff seriously awkward. And it's like the Trump factor is enough to swing elections pretty much anywhere in the Anglosphere. And I noticed, for example, here in the UK, the truly ridiculous Ed Davey, the leader of the Lib Dems, he thinks that Nigel Farage's weak point is Donald Trump. Now, Ed Davies also the guy who runs around. If you may have seen photographs of him with a wooden horse, pretending to be on a wooden horse. I mean, the Lib Dems is very problematic, very, very problematical. But whether or not this is an intended side effect of Trump, I don't know. Scepter Dial says Trump is anti-Anglosphere, to be fair, and has tried to destroy British jobs. Reform would have been wiped out if Labour were allowed to demand Farage answer for his Trump love. Well, that's a point of view, Scepter. I don't agree. Trump is actually, he's pro-America, though, you say. See, some people don't understand this really simple concept. America first means America first, not last, not along with other. It means America first. Yeah, this was Ed Davey. Oh, my God. We are the antidote to reform's hate and division. Well, one thing I will say about reform, I see no evidence of any hate and any desire to divide. I see no evidence of that at all. Zero. But I do hear stuff from Ed Davey that we've just put the picture of, and he's like just a clown, absolute clown. And it sort of worries me that a party led by such a clown, who, if you remember during the general election last year, he was into stunts. Do you remember he went down slides and all kinds of silly stunts? And I've got to be careful how I say that. He did all these silly stunts, and then they did okay at the polls, which makes me think, is part of the UK electorate so stupefied that they think, yeah, Ed Davey, he's the kind of guy that he knows what's going on. Because at the moment, his big thing is anyway to criticize Nigel Farage because of Nigel Farage's friendship with Donald Trump. What a loser Ed Davey is, But back to Trump anyway. So Trump is been trolling the media so well, and where it goes, nobody knows, I suppose. Every morning, I listen to the BBC very early in the morning, and It's always the same. It doesn't matter what day it is. It's Donald Trump said something and we fact checked it and it's not true. And, that's nonsense. They just haven't a clue. Donald Trump being in the White House is well worth it just because he annoys the likes of the BBC, the likes of the Sky, the likes of the Daily Mail hate Donald Trump. Why is that? Because all the forces of globalism do despise Donald Trump. And that's, of course, why I like Donald Trump. Don't agree with everything Donald Trump says, but it's hard not to like him on the whole. And, that's how I feel about it. So look, folks, we've come to the end of our allocated time. We've reached the hour mark. I want to thank you all for coming along on what is a bank holiday Monday. So I wasn't sure whether or not to do one of these shows, but I thought we'd shoot the breeze for an hour anyway and try and cover a few things. So I hope you find that interesting. I want to thank, as always, everyone who has watched this and who watches it on replay, because I know there's a lot of you do that. I want to thank everyone who dropped a comment, especially all you folks over in YouTube's. Thanks for that. If you can't get enough of me, as I say, there were 6 podcasts went out today. There were 4 Substacks went out today. Who else puts out that much content anywhere? Yes, there's a David Vance Substack. Read all about the Hollywood trans-satanic cult. And today, the delusions of Boris Johnson. That's a sort of amplification of what I've talked about. Marjorie Taylor Greene, who calls out some of Trump's priorities. Bonnie Blue, my old pal Bonnie Blue, gets the red card. She was apparently wanting to get it to Nottingham Forest football ground, and they told her to go away. And then, finally, the right to say fat lesbian. Well, I better be careful about that because we're on YouTube. But this was an actual court case in Switzerland where a journalist was sent to prison for 60 days because he called someone who was, I believe, a lesbian and somewhat obese. He called them a fat lesbian. If you want to find out about Lady Gaga and the occult, it's all there, folks. It's all there. Go and read the stuff, and you might find something that you like anyway. There's certainly there's lots of content there. So look, thanks again for being here. Be back tomorrow on the podcast, on the Substacks, and I look forward to seeing you all on our live podcast that we do every Thursday night. But as the sun begins to set outside, it's time for this show to set as well. Thanks for being here, folks. Catch you soon. Good night.